Okay, let's unpack this. When you think about countries with massive coastlines, what comes to mind? Probably the really, really big ones, you figure. The ones that just sprawl across maps.
Yeah, and size definitely plays a part. It has to. But what's really fascinating when you look at these lists, like the one we're diving into from 10 most today,
Mhm.
is that there's another geographic feature that just, well, it completely changes the game for racking up shoreline kilometers.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about being enormous then.
Not at all. It's often about the shape of the land where it meets the sea. That's sometimes even more critical than the total land area. So we're going to explore this list, point out some frankly surprising rankings, and really get into the geographic secrets behind these immense coastlines.
It's like thinking the biggest balloon automatically has the most edge, right? But then you realize a crumpled up piece of paper can have way more perimeter in a much smaller space.
That's a great analogy.
Mm.
Geography is doing some really interesting crumpling in these cases. It's all about that land-water interface.
Right. Okay, so let's dive in then. Kicking things off at number 10, we find New Zealand.
New Zealand. Yeah, it's a perfect example right from the start of that shape oversize idea we were just talking
Yeah.
about. If you look at land area, it's around 75th in the world? So not tiny, but definitely not one of the giant.
Yeah.
Yet it snags the 10th spot globally for coastline. The measure is 15,134 kilometers. That's 9,403 miles.
Okay, so why? Why does it rank so high for coastline compared to its overall size? Is it just really jagged?
Well, the big reason is that it's made up of multiple islands, primarily two main ones, North and South Island, plus many smaller ones.
Ah,
And when a country is broken up like that, each island adds its entire perimeter, its whole edge, to the country's total coastline. So yeah, a country with a relatively smooth coast across a huge area might actually have less total shoreline than a smaller country that's basically just the edges of lots of different islands.
that principle makes a lot of sense when you put it like that. Okay, so following New Zealand at number 9. Now, here's a country you absolutely expect to see high up just because of its sheer scale. The United States.
Yep, the U.S., it's fourth largest in the world by total area. Huge amount of internal water, too. You definitely
Yeah.
think top 5, maybe even higher, right?
Yeah, it's easily.
But its coastline length, measured at 19,924 kilometers, or about 12,380 miles, puts it only at number 9.
Only 9. That feels genuinely surprising. I mean, you've got the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Arctic up with Alaska, the Gulf of Mexico.
It really does, and it kind of highlights how much the countries ranked above it must benefit from something the mainland U.S. Mostly lacks,
Hmm.
which is those really complex, super indented coastlines, or, like we just saw with New Zealand, just vast numbers of islands. The main U.S. coastline is long, sure, but it's relatively smoother compared to some of the others we're going to see.
Okay. Speaking of deeply indented coastlines, number 8 is Norway.
Ah, Norway. Famous
Right.
for its fjords, right?
Exactly.
So the coastline is 25,148 kilometers. That's 15,626 miles. The source doesn't detail the why for the specific list, but yeah, those incredible deep, narrow inlets, the fjords, they're the classic example of how coastline measurement just explodes. It happens when the land is highly fragmented right at the edges, even if it's not totally separate islands. Imagine, like, trying to measure the edge of a tightly folded fan versus just a straight ruler.
Fjords. Yeah, that makes perfect sense visually. Each one of those must add miles and miles of shoreline inside the country's general outline. Okay, so from the rugged coast of Norway, let's jump across the globe. Number 7, Australia.
Australia. Unique, this one. Depending on your definition, it's either the world's biggest island or its smallest continent.
Yeah.
It's the sixth largest country overall by area, and it has a pretty substantial coastline, 25,760 kilometers or 16,006 miles. That puts it at number 7 on this list.
And a cool little detail mentioned in the source is that it's the largest country in the world that doesn't share a single land border with any other nation.
Yeah, just completely surrounded by water. It's really defined by its coastline, isn't it? But while it's a massive landmass, it doesn't really have those super extensive island systems like New Zealand or the deep fjords like Norway. So that kind of places it here, middle of the pack, despite its, continental scale.
Okay. Now, if we're talking about island systems, this is where that archipelago effect you mentioned really starts to dominate the top half of the list. Coming in at number 6, Japan.
Japan, yes. A really striking contrast to Australia or the U.S. when you think about land area.
Yeah.
Japan ranks only, 62nd largest globally?
Hmm.
But look at its coastline, sixth longest. It's 29,751 kilometers,
Hmm.
or 18,486 miles. That's a huge jump up the ranking compared to its actual size.
62nd by size, 6th by coastline. Wow, that difference is dramatic. And the reason is exactly what we saw a glimpse of with New Zealand. Japan is just made up of thousands of islands.
Absolutely. It really underscores that principle perfectly. Every single island, whether it's Honshu or some tiny speck, contributes its entire perimeter to that total coastline figure. So a country spread across lots and lots of land masses will almost always punch way above its weight in coastline length compared to a single solid landmass country.
And if Japan ranks 62nd by size as number 6 on the coastline list, get ready for number 5. It's the Philippines.
The Philippines, yeah. Ranked even smaller than Japan by land area, around 73rd globally, I think. But its coastline, significantly longer than Japan's. It reaches 36,289 kilometers, that's 22,548 miles, secures the number 5 spot.
And again, the reason cited is exactly that it's composed of many islands. It's fascinating how this pattern just repeats and actually intensifies as we move up the list.
It's crystal clear, isn't it? The more fragmented a country's landmass is, the more broken up into islands, the higher it's likely to rank for coastline length, almost irrespective of its total area.
Okay, stepping away from the pure archipelagos for a moment. At number 4, we have Russia. Now, this is one of the absolute behemoths in terms of size.
Oh, absolutely. Russia is, in fact, the largest country in the world by area. It also has the second largest area of internal water globally. So its coastline length is huge, 37,653 kilometers, or 22,396 miles. And that puts it at number 4.
So with Russia, it's that combination, right? Immense size, giving it long borders with oceans, plus having a really long, complex northern coastline along the Arctic. And then coasts on other seas, 2 major oceans.
Exactly. Size is definitely a major factor for Russia. It contributes hugely, even though its landmass is much more, let's say, consolidated than the big island nations just below it on this list.
All right, into the top 3. And number 3 is another one that might surprise you if you're just thinking about, say, population or what you normally picture as a country. Number 3 is Greenland.
Greenland. Yeah, technically it's the world's largest island, but politically it's an autonomous territory of Denmark, not an independent country. But for geographic rankings like coastline length, it's often listed. And its coastline is just truly massive. 44,087 kilometers, that's 27,394 miles, puts it third globally.
That is an enormous coastline. And the source points out a really striking detail here. Despite having the 3rd longest coastline in the world, its population is tiny, only about 56,000 people.
It's just this vast, icy, largely uninhabited frontier, isn't it? With an incredibly long and complex edge where glaciers meet the sea. Its status as a single huge island, combined with that highly indented, icy perimeter, just gives it this immense coastline length relative to its, human footprint.
Okay, moving to number 2. We're back to the world of archipelagos again. It's Indonesia.
Indonesia holds the second longest coastline on the entire planet. It's measured at 54,716 kilometers, which is about 33,998 miles. And the source explicitly points to the reason. The sheer number of islands that make up Indonesia is just staggering, thousands upon thousands.
So that confirms the pattern again, but on an even bigger scale than Japan or the Philippines. Indonesia also ranks really high for its total water area within its boundaries, right?
Yes, exactly. With, like you said, thousands of islands spread across such a vast maritime area.
Yeah.
It's almost like geography designed it specifically to have an incredible length of shoreline, just miles and miles of places where land meets sea.
Which brings us to number 1. So we've seen that immense size helps, like Russia, Australia. We've seen intricate edges like fjords, a lot Norway. But being an archipelago seems to be the real superpower for coastline length. New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Indonesia. So who combines massive scale with complex island-filled edges to take the absolute top spot? It has to be Canada.
It is Canada. It's the world's second largest country by total area, and it actually boasts the largest water area globally. But what truly, truly sets it apart and gives it the undisputed longest coastline is its northern geography. The number is just staggering. 202,080 kilometers. That's 125,567 miles. Canada's coastline is more than double the length of the next independent country on the list, Indonesia.
Wow. Wait, say that again? Over 200,000 kilometers.
202,080, yeah.
That's almost 4 times longer than Indonesia's. It's like an order of magnitude beyond almost everyone else.
It is. It's that combination,
Sure.
spanning a huge chunk of the North American continent, plus possessing that vast, incredibly complex archipelago. It's just this maze of countless large and small islands, inlets, bays that pushes Canada's coastline measurement into a league entirely of its own. It gets the benefit of both immense continental scale and extreme island fragmentation up north.
Looking back at this whole list now, it really does crystallize that lesson, doesn't it? While being a huge country gives you a definite head start, being an archipelago, a country made of many, many islands, seems to be the ultimate factor for just dominating coastline length.
Absolutely. You look at Indonesia, the Philippines, Japan, New Zealand, they rank far, far higher than their land area alone would ever suggest. Why? Because they're composed of so many islands. Even Canada's #1 spot, as huge as it is dramatically inflated by those northern island formations, not just its straightforward continental mass facing the oceans.
And then you have those interesting, unique cases like Greenland, the single largest island, or Norway with its dramatic fjords, just showing different ways that highly complex coastlines can add up.
It really does shift your perspective, doesn't it? From just glancing at a country's footprint on a world map to thinking about the incredible, intricate detail of its outer edges.
So, what does this all tell us? I mean, the absolute key takeaway from this deep dive has to be that while sheer size matters, sure, especially if you have a long, continuous border on an ocean, being an archipelago and nation literally made of many islands is just this massive multiplier for coastline length. That geometric reality explains why countries like the Philippines and Japan rank so dramatically higher than their overall land area would lead you to believe. And it explains why Canada's combination of just vastness and its complex northern islands gives it a coastline longer than, what, the next 8 countries on the list combined? Something crazy like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
We saw some really surprising facts, too, like Greenland's immense coastline despite its tiny population, or, the U.S. only ranking 9th despite its size and multiple ocean fronts.
It really forces you, I think, to appreciate how much a country's basic physical form, especially how broken up its landmass is right at the edges, dictates its fundamental relationship with the world's oceans and seas.
So here's a thought to leave you with. Given how much a country's shape, particularly if it's fragmented into many islands, impacts its coastline length, does this change how you think about the physical form of countries and maybe their connection to the sea?